Let's
All
do
right.
it.
If you guys are just joining, my name is Chad Westbrook. I'm the founder of Sales Alignment and Service Alignment, where I focus just about 20 years of my career specifically in the commercial roofing world, with probably even a further niche into the service side. So service is ultimately what incubates every single relationship that you have. A roof is going to leak 100 times before the tolerance is going to get to the point where they want to spend tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars replacing the roof. So that's where my expertise has been. I've been a part of some of the largest service agreements across the United States. I've managed over 40 different divisions, service divisions, and capital production divisions throughout my career, and well on my way past $500,000, so getting close to that $1 billion in ultimate sales. So when you think about that, guys, this isn't like selling $1, $2, $3 million projects. This is $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 jobs. So really creating that relationship, the consistency, and really getting back to this 4D sales process. How do you guys use every opportunity that you have to build a relationship that is consistent and reoccurring? That's what I'm here to do, and that's a big part of my background.
Beautiful. All right, guys. David Bonney, founder 45, and my journey and my focus over the last 15 to 20 years in sales is really about creating systems and processes. And that came from being in senior leadership positions over multiple revenue divisions in companies backed by private equity, backed by venture capitalists. And these people put ungodly expectations on those companies because they're going to come in and give you $50 million, but they want to exit within 3 to 4 years. They got to get you public. They have to make sure that you IPO. And to do that, the goals and demands that they put on you guys, this is a little early, these white hairs, but it's really a lot of stress and a pressure cooker of an environment that really forced us to figure things out. And within my tenure, I've helped companies grow to $100 million plus. I do fractional work in the trades, in the commercial roofing space, giving those same systems and processes so those companies can thrive easier from a revenue perspective. And that's why I'm here joining you guys today here with Chad, so we can deliver the same content to you guys. All right, so today we're going to be going through today we're going to be going through mindset, but we've gone through previously the 4D sales process, right? We've talked to you guys about how to run effective discovery, how that effective discovery should dive then into diagnosis. You have to tell them what the problem is, what the bigger problem is. If you leave them thinking that they know what the problem is, that problem is going to be simple, and that's going to affect your price. That's going to affect your ability to differentiate yourself from the competition. Once you diagnose, you got to get in and demonstrate. You got to demonstrate how you're going to be able to solve those problems and cure that pain. And you have to be able to do it in a way where it's clear and those dots connect. So your customers aren't confused, because the confused mind cannot act. And then as you go through all of that, we have that last one, decision, which is always left out. How do you drive people to a clear decision? No maybes, right? We need a clear decision. A yes is great, a no is great. No maybes. I'm okay with a no. Move on. I should have done the work at the top of my pipeline to have a flush funnel down at the bottom, and I should have more deals that I'm waiting for, right? The law of mathematics is going to work out. When I've got 20 to 25 quotes out there, I know how many of those, there's going to be 8 to 12. They're going to turn into sales at an average price of $7,500, $8,000, $8,500, just depending on whatever it is that we do. So we're going to drive it to a decision. And by driving it to a decision, we're going to unearth any lack of clarity, and we're going to be able to resolve those a lot faster and a lot sooner, so that we don't hand over the keys or ultimately hand over the power like Chad talks about all the time. But within all of this, we raise it up higher, okay? How do we actually go through and do this? How do we go through and do the 4D sales process at the highest level possible? Well, we want to look at checkpoints. There's 3 major checkpoints that you've got to make sure your prospects are crossing as you go through the sales process. Okay, and we go through and we do deal with these all the time in our groups. And it is amazing how we can teach this over and over again, how even Chad and I will execute on this sometimes. And we're like, that's, I don't know if it's there, right? We've got to make sure that our buyers are passing these 3 checkpoints. And these are just logical checkpoints. This is not our content. This is just life. People are not going to purchase something if they don't feel like it's an urgent enough priority and they don't need to act. It's just not going to happen. Okay. If they do think it's an urgent enough priority and they do need to act, then it's all about checkpoint 2. Do they actually need outside help? Because the fastest way to solve that problem and take action is to take action on your own instead of waiting to go through the purchase process and waiting for a company to get their stuff together and get out to you. Right. Now, if they do need to act and they absolutely do need outside help, then and only then does it matter if we have the best solution. But we have to check these things off as we go through. Okay. This is about the buyer experience. They want to solve the biggest problems causing them the most pain. We want to help them solve their biggest problems causing them the most pain. And our ability to do that is really by getting on the same side of the table with them, joining them in that process of doing it and ensuring that these checkpoints are crossed. And if they're not, it's okay. I'm completely fine telling the prospect that, hey, I don't know. I mean, based on all the people that I talk to, it doesn't sound like this is that big of an issue. Is this something that you guys really need to focus on right now? Call me in a couple of months if it gets worse. That creates more trust. You can ask that question, right? Get clear on it, because you don't want to work with people that don't need to take action, because then that's going to cloud your pipeline and that's going to keep you from actually having the conversations that you need to have with new opportunities. Okay. So as we go through and we're looking at those 3 checkpoints, we want to discover and disqualify. Discover if the information is there and disqualify them if they don't meet the checkpoint. Keep your pipeline clean. It's so funny. It's, oh man, yeah. Oh, my pipeline. Oh, I got about, I got about $150,000, $200,000 in my pipeline. I'm good for this month. I'm doing great. Okay, let's go through it. When's the anticipated close date? September 30th, September 30th, September 30th, September 30th. Those deals aren't closing. You just keep rolling them over, right? And time is not our friend in sales. The longer a deal drags out, the more likely it is that they're not going to move forward or they're not going to move forward with us. Keep your pipeline clean. Because when your pipeline comes down and it's more realistic and it's true, that gives you the urgency and clarity on what you need to be doing from a prospecting perspective every single day. But without that, you end up short, and then you don't have the reserves to be able to fill it up.
It's so true, because like when I go into book of businesses, right, it's marking things dead is always taken like a bad thing. And from my perspective, it's not a bad thing. Like, it's a weight off my shoulders that I no longer have to continue to follow up with this individual that never calls me. Like, that's what sucks for me, is that I have to continuously follow up with the individual with this false hope that maybe he's going to answer the phone and tell me yes. But like, that's the furthest from probably the reality. He hasn't answered the phone the last 5 times because he's already done something with it, right? And now I'm just looking for that closure. So you're right. The longer it stays inside the pipeline is the less likely it's going to happen. And that is perfectly taken care of, which is, do they actually need to act? How big of a priority is this for them? Is it something that has to happen, something that they want to happen, or something that they were told needs to happen? I can tell you how many times I go into a sales meeting, right? And they're like, well, my boss told me to get a proposal for this, so that's what I'm doing. Like, does that guy really care?
Right.
So great point on that.
And the magical thing, Chad, about CRMs is I think the vast majority of them allow you to take your deals out of close lost if that person resurfaces, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, dead is not dead. Dead ultimately is like, I'm no longer looking at this. I'm going to focus my time and energy somewhere else. If they call me 3 months later, yeah, I'm going to review the project, maybe rebid it, make sure materials, labor, all that stuff's there. But yeah, it could absolutely come back.
I can pull it back out. I can put it back in my pipeline. Keeping it there does nothing but cloud my judgment and cloud my clarity on my ability to go create my own outcomes and my own success. All right, Chad, you want to kick us off on Headspace?
Yes, sir. All right, cool. So when you guys go into a meeting, this is where I would like you to position yourself. It's so easy to be worried about what time it is walking into this meeting. And if you're worried about what time it is, you're not in the zone, right? Unless you're worried about like, hey, this meeting starts in 10 minutes and I'm going to sit down and wait. Cool with that. Other than that, you should not be thinking about your next meeting. You should not be thinking about the emails that you have coming in, the phone calls that you need to make that day, what you're going to be doing when you're getting done, how long that meeting's going to last. Because the longer that meeting lasts is more than likely the more discovery and good discovery that you guys are doing. The best thing that can ever happen is you go into a meeting for 30 minutes and the client keeps you there for an hour or whatever might come from it. Those are great, great variables that are happening. So when you talk about your headspace, guys, you should not be thinking about your next meeting. So we've talked a little bit about calendars and setting up and time blocking and all that stuff. Do not hurt yourself by setting up back-to-back meetings where you know you're like, yeah, I think I can make that. Because that's just going to rush you out of your first appointment and into your second appointment. Or if it doesn't, it's going to make you late for your second appointment, which either way you fail, right? Spread it out. Make time to actually do. The best thing that you can do is under promise and over deliver, right? Which is, hey, I'll be there by 3 o'clock, and you give them a call and say, hey, I'm actually running a little bit behind. Do you want to meet at 2? That's a value that you can offer. Very rarely is there a value that you offer when you say, hey, it's 2 o'clock. I won't be there till 3. Is that okay? So you can control all of these expectations, but you can only do it with good communication.
Hey, Chad.
Emails. Yes, sir.
Let me just add one thing to that, because it's an amazing point, guys. We talk all the time about our conversations, how you cannot allow the prospect to control the sales conversation. You're there, right? As a patient, we don't go in and control the doctor visit. We can't allow our prospects to control the conversation, and that's why we got to take control of the agenda right off the top. We talk a ton about that in the previous sessions. Same thing here. Do not let your prospects control your calendar. Don't let them pressure you into, oh, this is the absolute only time that I have, right? And it's not, I'm not being an absolutist 100%. When you've got to, you have to. That's completely fine. And it should absolutely be the exception and not the rule. You take control over your calendar. You have confidence about, I'm going to set this meeting when I need to set this meeting to set myself up and you up for success, because that's the balance that I'm constantly trying to toe.
So, and you're right. So I'm just going to go one step deeper inside this, right? So we always use the doctor analogy. You're going into the doctor, you're going to see a specialist. Are you going to walk inside his office and all of a sudden just demand instant? It's not going to happen, right? Your commodity contractors might be able to do that, right? Yeah, we'll send somebody out there and they go out there and they fix the perception, right? But if you guys truly want to be able to go in and sell bigger contracts and not just be a time and material contractor, you guys have to solve a problem or help your client get to a goal. So David, you make a great point inside there, right? That if you position it, so if someone calls you and says, hey, do you have the time to meet on Thursday? And you say, hey, actually, I'm in that part of town on Fridays. Does that work for you? You have the ability to, again, control your schedule, control your thinking. So emails, guys, I'll tell you a real life scenario. I bought an Apple Watch when it first came out, and I made the mistake of actually setting up notifications on it. And the only thing that happened is like my anxiety went through the roof, because every time that I got an email, it dinged on my watch. And this is real story why I still don't have an Apple Watch to this day. I know you can turn emails off. I get it. That's not the point. It's a distraction. Yeah. So when I talk about emails, right, or next calls or phone calls or anything else like that, the Apple Watch was truly like, that was my worst nightmare, because it connected me so much to what was happening automatically that I actually became worse at what I did, because I was so just like constantly caught off guard. Email, phone call, text message, right? And I'm sure you guys, some of you guys are as busy as, or I won't say as busy, I won't go there, but like emails and text messages constant. I can't have anything like that, and especially inside a meeting. One thing that I typically do, and I'm trying to make this a habit, is I take my phone and I flip it upside down. So even though my phone's out of my pocket or wherever it is, I flip the phone upside down, face down, and that's simply for the disruption, to get rid of it, right? Someone shoots you an email or call, it lights up my screen, my attention instantly goes there, right? It's like shiny thing, and now I'm instantly out. So there's little things like this that I've done for myself, that if it works for you guys, take the distractions out. That's the headspace. Be there, be present in the conversation that's happening with your customer, right? Don't be worried about emails. Turn your phone on silent, flip it upside down. So whatever phone calls come in, trust me, there's probably nothing more important than the meeting that you're in right there, because you've already dedicated the time, the effort, the gas, and whatever other resources to be able to sit down in front of that client. Don't destroy it by somebody else calling you or something disrupting you, such as a telemarketing call in the middle of your meeting that completely derails. We've all been in the conversation. We're like, what were we talking about? You
Right.
lost it at that point, right? So don't worry about doing what you're doing next. Don't worry about how long the meeting will last. David made a great point. That is absolutely one of my shortcomings, which is rabbit holes, right? It's like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. And we go down it, like kind of like we are right now, guys. Sorry. But how long the meeting will last, you guys own it. You guys know what the questions are. And the great part is that as soon as you get out of that rabbit hole, hopefully you do quit sooner than later, but you can go right to your next question, right? And that's the beauty of having a process. So on the headspace, it's not impossible to do this, guys, but you have to have that self-discipline. You have to be accountable to yourself, and more importantly, accountable to the prospect you're sitting down with, that they're going to get your undivided attention.
Yep. There was a rep. This was last year. It's like, hey, you know, it makes it sound like I'm sought after. I don't mind that stuff. Like, no, it makes you look unprofessional, right? Like if you go to a doctor and their phone is just dinging off the hook and they're checking it, what do you think? Oh man, this is a great doctor. People want to talk to him. People want to email him. Of course they want to talk to him. Of course they want to email him. Why is he allowing those interruptions to get in the way of my time with him? Right? And we don't talk about this a lot. This is some stuff that we used to harp on a ton, but they have malpractice. They have to get it right. They have to be focused. Well, guess what? We should have malpractice too. The salespeople, we have got to make sure that we are doing right by our prospects. So we've got to be focused. We have to be engaged. We have to have the right mindset that we're in there to help them get to the outcome that they wouldn't normally be able to achieve. So up that level of professionalism, guys. Make sure those dings and the vibrations and all that stuff. Do not disturb is going to be your best friend. Click on it as much as you can on those smart devices. All right.
All right. Want me to run this, David? All right.
Yeah, I mean, I can run it. You're going to add a bunch of color to it, though.
I know. I'm going to bring in real life, guys. All right. So when you pull into the parking lot, the first thing that you want to do is read the building. There is so much that you can learn from the front of the building, the grass, the landscape, the parking lot. I mean, everything that you can basically see from the road pulling in is going to explain to you how well they take care of that building, how well the maintenance is upkept. Now, remember, the roof is out of sight, out of mind. So if the front of the building's not washed, not painted, the parking lot has potholes in it, I'm going to tell you the roof is probably about 10 times worse than what you see up front. Now, I'm not telling you to judge a book by its covers. I've been in many situations where new companies have bought buildings, they're flipping it, they're putting the money inside it, and the roof is one of the most important things because it protects everything that's in there. But this allows you to be able to understand and see kind of how the building is taken care of, right? What's going on around it? Do they have people working on it? What's the safety look like? Are there other contractors out there? And if there are other contractors out there, how safe are they? This is all going to help you guys understand what and how your client buys. So a big part of this, when you pull inside the parking lot, allows you to be able to read the building and what exactly is going on in the building. All right, so when you walk in the building, so I'm helping you guys understand this. There's things that you should be doing. You should not be checking your phone as you walk into the front door, thinking of, again, emails, phone calls, different things like that. When you pull in, park, look at the front of the building, landscape, that stuff. Now, when you walk into the building, understand the experience that they're trying to give their visitors. Now, some buildings might not have visitors, and you might walk in and you're instantly in an industrial building. So be it. Look at the walls, look at the ceilings, look at the offices, right? Understanding that you're walking into, let's just say, a receptionist area or a call area, and you have stained ceiling tiles everywhere that you can tell have been looking like that for 6 months. Again, it's going to let you understand how reactive is this customer. Now you walk into some beautiful building where it's brand new ceiling tiles in there, they're going to be a lot more sensitive to water coming in, more than likely because it's a space they want to protect and a space that they're proud of. So you can tell all of this stuff before even meeting with them, how proactive and how much they actually care about the actual presence of where they're at. Look at the walls. A lot of times I've been in some really, really amazing buildings that'll have the story, right? And that builds into culture. And culture is a huge part of what we do, because if people come into a building and there's roof leaks everywhere, and they're coming into a building and they know every time it rains, they got a garbage can right next to them, how happy do you think those people are? Culture is a huge part of how you take care of your people, how you take care of your building, and how you create an experience, a work experience of where your people are at. So all this will tell a story. Are they proud? Do they have awards? Do they have stories? The entrance will tell you a story. The outside will tell you how they maintain it and how they want to be presented from the road as you walk in. It's how they want you to feel. So it's a big, big part of it, that there's a lot that you can learn. And there's also a lot that you can do on a conversation piece, learning about some of the things that you can see when walking in that building.
Come on now.
There we go. It's going slow for you. All right. So when you walk into their office, first off, nothing matters but the problems, or your client's problem or their goal. That is it. This is the point where the phone goes in the pocket, or if it's out of your pocket, on the desk, upside down, no emails, no nothing, right? Nothing else matters but your client's problem or goal. We talked about the 4 different ways to sell, right? Number 1, client has a problem. That's an immediate discovery that you can go into. Number 2, problem has a goal. Again, that's an immediate discovery that you can go into. There's 2 other ways. The other way is education, which is educating them about what's going on. It's more of a proactive measurement. The 4th one is fear. Okay. Fear is like, oh man, you haven't been on that roof in 6 months. It's probably completely horrible and your warranty's void. Nobody likes fear, right? So the first thing you want to find out is, does your client have a problem or a goal? Because both of those items are going to automatically trigger the ability for you guys to be able to go into a discovery call. So when you walk into the office, okay, first thing you want to look at is very similar to what you've done when you walked inside the front. What's on the wall, right? This will tell you where it is. This is their personal space. This is where they spend most of their time. I've been on walls where they have different taxidermy stuff up on the walls, where they've had pictures of their kids, their family. I mean, all awards that they've won, all kinds of different stuff. This will tell you a story of how proud they are of their business, of what they do. So again, I'm going back into culture because that's a huge part of this. But then getting to their desk. This is one of the most interesting things that I like doing, is looking at my client's desk, because this will tell you how they manage their business. And this is where it gets really cool, because if they have a desk that's absolutely full of papers that are stacked inside there, you know that they're a paper-based individual, and they're going to ultimately put you or manage you inside that same way, because that's how they do business. Now, if that desk is completely clean, that can, and a lot of times it's not one or the other, you're right into the middle, but that'll tell you that they could be digital based. And that a lot of times can ask, hey, do you guys like client portals? Do you guys, you can talk a little bit more about the digital interaction that you can have with the customer, than understanding that they're 100% old school. They hate their cell phone, and they want to do everything by paper. So again, all 3 of these things, I have not even spoke to the customer yet, but I'm reading the room. I'm getting used to what's happening out there. How well do they take care of the outside of the building? How well is the landscaping done, right? Does it actually look presentable? I walk in, what do they want their clients to feel? Are they building a business based upon culture, or building a business based upon production? 2 completely different worlds, but it allows you to be able to, again, your client is there to be able to solve a problem, or reach a goal. Those are the 2 primary areas, again, that's going to trigger someone to be able to do business with us. So you need to find out what that is, because if it's a big, beautiful outside and they have a problem, right, that's something that might need to be really, really quick. That might actually engage into, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this? Well, if you have 3,000 ceiling tiles and one of them is stained black from a roof leak, it's a lot different than having 3,000 ceiling tiles and 500 of them are already stained. You just have one new one. All of this stuff helps you understand what's going on with your customer, and also allows you to be able to control the conversation as you walk through. So nothing else matters other than your client's problem or the goal when you walk in there. But again, read the room, be aware of what's going on, and it'll allow you to be able to have better conversations and better relate to even what your customer's dealing with. All right. So this is the part where I'm going to tell you guys to invest into yourself. And I get it's a way to be able to say, I don't have time for that, or I don't like reading, or wherever it is. I'm going to tell you that understanding different perspectives will honestly change the way that you guys do business. If you are not investing in some type of continued education, I don't care if it is webinars, I don't care if you're attending trade shows yourself, or if you're reading a book, and I can tell you my way is Audible. I spend too much time inside a vehicle to listen to the radio. And I say that because when I first started getting into, let's just say, really into continued education, I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to go home at night after my day at work and then read a book. Like, that does not exist. I have 3 kids and they're all in sports, and like, that doesn't happen. So I started finding out where are the areas where I spend my time where I can actually invest into myself. And one of the first ones that I came out with, guys, was my ride to work. Now, my ride to work was 20 minutes. That's 40 minutes a day, almost an hour a day, right? That I was able to invest in. I'm able to be able to get through a 7-hour book in 2 weeks. It was absolutely phenomenal when I started repurposing that time. The second part where I did it was on my lawnmower. I have a riding lawnmower where I mow my yard, and literally I throw in noise canceling headphones and I jam out, not music, right? Audiobook for whatever I'm listening to for an hour and a half while I mow the yard. If you think about that, guys, I just ultimately created almost 6, 7 hours worth of continued education, that time that I was already investing, but I was not benefiting myself. Now, there's times where I listen to music, absolutely, mood or whatever the situation is. My wife and kids would kill me if they listened to an audiobook inside the car. But this is what I'm telling you guys. Find that space for you guys and invest into yourself. That's what you got to do. There's 3 different books. There's more than 3, but these are the 3 biggest ones that I'll say starting off. First off is the 4-Hour Work Week. Talks a lot about delegation, utilizing resources. I've had too many salesmen, owners, all kinds of different people say, I don't have time for that. And that's not true. We all have 24 hours. This focuses a lot on that. Getting things done is another great one that helps you on prioritizing and even getting rid of some of the tasks that don't push your business forward. And when I say your business, this can be your book of business. You don't have to be a business owner to be able to get something out of this. Everybody has 1,000 tasks to be able to do a day. What makes people great is the skill to be able to choose which ones you guys are actually going to do, which ones you're going to do at the right time, which ones you guys are going to get there. And the last one is probably one of my favorite, Never Split the Difference. This one is a FBI hostage negotiator, international hostage negotiator, that when he messes up, it's going to be aggressive, guys, people die. We're lucky enough not to be in that environment, but when you take the skill and the art of negotiation and you put it inside life and death, it has a completely different side. So he talks about some of the different hostage negotiations that he had, some of the different techniques that he learned. And the coolest part about, I'd probably say about a third or halfway through the book, he converts it into business and how you take these same negotiation tactics and put them into a way. And negotiation is ultimately making sure both sides win. Both sides get what they want. So when you do that, you can use these books to be able to get different perspectives. It can really, really help you open your eyes to sometimes when you say, hey, why my client didn't buy this? This didn't make any sense. This deficiency or this problem, he had to get it done. I don't understand why he doesn't do it. He doesn't have a choice but to do it. And let me tell you, every second he doesn't do it, it's his choice, guys. So how do you do that? How do you put yourself inside your client's shoes? You've got to learn from a different perspective. Now, David continues to be, I think David dropped one last week that he never recommended to me, so I haven't got to him on that one yet. But I have a ton of different books that have been absolutely massive to my development. And there are a boatload out there based upon what you like. These are 3 that I'm going to recommend to you guys that are going to kickstart you guys on learning how to delegate, learning how to negotiate, and learning how to prioritize. These are the three favorites that I've got. David, anything that stands out to you that outside of these?
Maybe we throw buyer-centric selling on there for next time.
What? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. No.
We'll see.
The principle here, guys, and this is a life principle. I realize I'm not your dad. It's okay, but I am gray. I'm long in the tooth here. I'm here to teach. We're either growing or we're dying. It's just the way it is. Our skill set is either developing, we're expanding, or our skills our skill set is decreasing. It doesn't plateau, guys. We lose our edge. You have to continue to invest in yourself. And what's at stake is everything, because you're going to be on that downturn. And by the time you realize you're on that downturn and you've lost your edge, you're going to try to pull yourself back up. And it just takes too much time. Continual investment in yourself, continual growth is absolutely key. I don't care how long you've been in the game. I don't care how long you've been doing this. I don't care how old you are. It's so absolutely critical. The investment in yourself, I know we see it all the time by the gurus, guys, but man, any money that you spend on investing in yourself is going to give you absolutely the best ROI, the best return on investment, because you can then go put it to use and go make real money, real commission dollars, and more dollars every single year. But I digress. All right. Step one. We're going to take this one, Chad?
Go for it. I was seeing if you were going to take it. That's awkward silence, guys. So what happens right there, that is the power of silence. Whoever says something first loses. So David, you lost. Go.
The vacuum. So you got to know your numbers, guys. They do not lie. Okay. That is step one. We have to make sure that we understand our numbers are everything. So that's why we talk so much in the programs that we've got about having your strategic sales plan and your weekly numbers. Your monthly goal is broken up into 4 quarters, just like a game. You've got to know your numbers. You have to know where you're trending. You have to know how things are going, because those numbers are not going to lie to you. And the 3 numbers that absolutely matter, number 1 is your lead conversion ratio. Okay. How many leads that you've developed actually turned into a meeting completed? Now, when we talk about that development, when we talk about what we're reading, when we talk about the investments that we're making in ourselves, this is huge right here, right? We invest in education. We invest in development around these areas. How can I get somebody on the phone, get past that initial few seconds, get into the call, right? Have it open up, and how do I actually have an effective conversation, or a more effective conversation than I have been having, to actually generate a scheduled meeting? And then of those meetings get scheduled, how am I getting those people to show up so I can actually complete that meeting? It's a big deal. If you don't know this number, then you don't know your business. And that's an issue, right? Now, the key on this is they have to show up. It's meetings completed, not meetings scheduled. We schedule meetings all day. People they'll throw times out there all the time. They're not committing themselves to anything if they don't actually show up. Okay. So they have to show up. That is absolutely critical. All right. Meeting number 2, your meeting conversion ratio. Okay. When we're looking at the meetings that we completed, how many actually turned into proposals that we delivered? How are we running those meetings? This is where we get into the 4 Ds. How effectively are we getting them past the first checkpoint and the second checkpoint, so that they're like, yes, we need a freaking proposal. We need it tomorrow or yesterday is hopefully what they say, right? There he is. Look at that face. Look at that brim. There it is, right? Did we check the boxes? Did we meet the first 2 checkpoints? Did we get from meetings completed to proposals delivered? This is a great number, right? Remember in school, we get these grades. I went and did this work. Here's my grade. This is your freaking grade. If you think you're running effective discovery and diagnosis, this number is going to tell you whether or not you are, right? And again, strategic sales plan, you got to set goals around this conversion rate, and then you bump it up against it. That'll tell you whether or not you're getting an A. That'll tell you whether or not you're ready to graduate to the next level, go into your senior year, or move on into college, whatever it is, right? Right? We have to understand what these numbers are, because these numbers reflect how good we are. I don't care how good you think you are. The numbers tell the story. And we do this with companies all the time. And it is shocking for them. Not for us anymore. It is shocking for them. We're like, man, I thought we were doing way better in this area. Yeah. You thought, you felt. Your feelings are irrelevant. Facts, not feelings. I don't care about how you feel about your performance. I want the numbers. I want the data to tell me what your performance actually reflects. Chad, you popped on the camera. Do you want to add on to this?
Nah, I just figured you guys wanted to see my pretty face.
It's just not the same. I mean,
I'm
everybody was
sorry.
debating whether or not they wanted to stay on because they couldn't
The
see
drop off
you.
was insane. As soon as I didn't have my camera on, 50% dropped off. It was like 300 people were just out.
Just immediately. Jarring. All right, number 3, your quote conversion. How many of those quotes are actually turning in to new sales? You can slang quotes all day. If they're not converting, something's wrong. They're choosing the competition. They're taking your proposal and giving it to Bob the maintenance man. They're sticking with their old vendor. Right? When it comes down to checkpoint 2, do they actually need outside help? And do we have the best solution? This is going to be your grade. This will be your score. This will tell you, are you good at it or not? Again, we don't care about your feelings. We don't care if you feel like you're great at pitching stuff. We don't care. This number is all we care about.
David's aggressive.
I
No,
know
just
it's the
he's
bubbly water,
aggressive
Dave.
today.
The
I
bubbly water.
apologize to everybody on here. David's aggression is just over the top. I do care. Okay. No, I'm kidding. So what this really comes down to, and everybody tracks your final conversion ratio, right? How many proposals delivered to how many sold. But the fact is that if you focus on the top of the funnel, guys, and that's why I said there's 3 numbers that matter. It's not just, hey, what's your close ratio? Because everybody will tell me what their close ratio is and either be insanely happy with it or be like insanely unhappy with it. And the way that you change either one of those numbers, whether you're happy or not, has everything to do with what happens at the top of the funnel. And that's why we're telling you these 3. And when I say top of funnel, I know that's a little bit of a buzzword, but what I'm talking about is how many of your activities actually turn into a meeting. It's calling the right people at the right time, saying the right stuff, right? And not the right stuff, right? But having a good, consistent presentation that allows you to be of value rather than just be another annoying, sales call that shows up. It's like, no, thank you. We lease the building, right? And you're out. That's where you improve it. And that's where you make big differences in this. So if you guys are unhappy with your quote conversion ratio, I'm telling you, that's not your problem. It's further up inside the funnel that can affect and adjust these numbers. And that's why we told you these are the 3 primary numbers that matter. And David is right. The numbers are really what's there. Numbers don't lie, right? And when I say that is that when you say that you did 15 calls, it might hurt to say you only did 15 calls a day. But the fact is, that's the real reality, right? That's how many entries you put into the system. If you did more than that, then put more into the system. Because when you don't, what happens is all of the data, all of the things that are put in front of you are ultimately void or null. Because if you really did 30 calls and you only put 15 inside the system, well, how is anybody supposed to help you if you're doing more or less than what the system shows? And that's always, and David, I think, has said it best that managing reps through numbers in a negative way is so demoralizing because it's like, man, I'm never going to hit those numbers. I'm never going to get there. Do it the opposite way, right? Like, how does somebody else get there? Let's learn from what other people are doing. So if you have somebody within your organization that's just killing it, right, on the outbound prospect side, I'm going to encourage you guys to talk to them. What makes them different? What makes them be able to hit those numbers? And that's what you're showing you, these 3 numbers. Mindset is a massive part of it, right? If you're confident that I can do this, I got the plan, I'm going to get there, that person will always be more successful than the person that's like, no, that's never possible. I can never do that. I'll do my best, but I don't know about that. Those 2 results are going to be black and white different.
My guess, Chad, is whoever they go talk to is probably executing the perfect sales week.
Oh, I promise you they are.
Oh, yeah, they are, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so guys, and again, I'm only leaning into what I'm saying here because it's true. We have to, as salespeople, we have to understand our biology is something that allows us to stay in the game, but it also works against us. Our eternal optimism and positivity is what keeps us coming back after we get so many no's, after we get so much rejection, right? Like that, if you can't handle that, you got to get out of this game. You can't be in our industry. So you have to have it. But unfortunately, the shadow of that is that eternal optimism and that positivity then all of a sudden starts to create negative ramifications on how we're evaluating our own performance. And something that comes to mind based on what Chad said is, guys, the goal is not to, you don't need to beat yourself up based on these numbers. Just know these numbers. Just know these numbers. And then from there, bump it up against where you expected to be or where you want to be and make adjustments. Just have fun, right? The team that beats themselves up after the first quarter because they're down by 8 points, morale gets down, nobody's energetic, nobody's excited, they continue to lose, right? But the team that comes in there is like, no, we're better than this. Let's go figure this out. We need to make this adjustment, this adjustment, this adjustment. They're winning by halftime. Okay. So use these numbers as something that's powerful, that's enabling you to take control over your success, because these are the scorecard. And just like the sales magic trick, you create small improvements across these 3 numbers, huge win for your funnel and your overall success. All right, take us home, Chad.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk through ultimately 2 kind of scenarios right here. So if you hit the next one, it should show up on the other side, David. So what we're ultimately talking about is how to understand what your percentage is. So when we talk about percentages, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. The example that we're using here, 100 leads, 80 meetings, 30 quotes, 10 sold jobs, right? So when we look at these kind of different conversions, 100 leads into 80 meetings means that 80% of your leads convert, right? That's what we were talking about inside ratio number 1, which means when you have 100 unqualified prospects that came to you saying, hey, I have a roof leak, I need some kind of roof work, whatever it is, right? That is a lead. When that meeting is completed, okay, that means they showed up, that means they were there, it means you went through a discovery phase to be able to help create a solution for them or start creating the solution for them, right? It means the meeting happened. It wasn't in the lobby. They didn't walk out to your car and talk to you outside. You had an actual formal meeting with them where you were able to do some type of form of discovery, right? Which is our first step. So when that happens, 100 leads, 80 means, it means 80% of your leads convert. Now, if I had 80 meetings and I produced 30 quotes out of there, it means 37.5% of my meetings actually turned into a quote. Now, if I have 30 quotes that are out there and I sold 10 jobs, that means 33% of my proposals convert into a sold job. So this is step 1 to kind of understanding where it is. Now, typically what you would do is you would say, okay, I had 100 leads, I sold 10 jobs. That means your overall close ratio is 10%. 100 leads came into the business, I sold 10 of them, that left me with a 10% close ratio. So this is kind of helping you understand, how do you break those down, right? So what are leads? A lead is an unqualified prospect that has came into your book of business. And when I say unqualified, it means you haven't done anything yet to either qualify or disqualify them. They came into the business, they called, they hit email, you did a drop and maybe got a meeting with somebody, but they're unqualified. Anything you want to add to this slide, David?
Nope. It's perfect.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So I kind of went through this 10%. So David, this is the magic trick. You want to run through this? Because I think you're fabulous at jumping through this.
Yep. Yeah. So we've got the same thing that we talked about, guys. When it comes down to the compound effect, if you have 100 leads, 70% move on to meetings, 30% move on to quotes, 25% move on to sales. Right. If these are your conversion rates, you end up with 70 meetings, 21 quotes, 5 sales at an average of $7,000 bucks at 36,000, roughly 36,000. So it's about 440,000 a year. Now, if we just make small improvements here, if we can just move this to 80%, right? Well, it's only 10 more meetings, but if we can move quotes to up 10%, now all of a sudden we're a 50% increase, 21 quotes to 32. Well, if we can increase our conversion or quote to sale by 10%, 25 to 35, now suddenly we're at more than double. And if we can increase our average revenue per sale by 8,000 or by $1,000 up to 8,000, now suddenly you can see we've more than doubled our overall sales. It's basically 150% increase, or 250%, however you look at that. So don't worry about these numbers. But the point is that if you guys know your numbers and where they're at, where your baseline is, and then you guys can create some conservative improvements at each stage based on the training that you're getting here, based on the knowledge that you're going out and getting, elsewhere on how you're trying to improve, you guys could get easily a 20, 30, 50% increase. 50% increase. I mean, we do this with companies all the time. We go through and we run company numbers to get them a 50% increase. It's nothing. It's really easy because we're not worried about increasing our number of leads by 50%. We're not worried about increasing our close rate by 50%. The compound effect of small changes throughout the funnel creates an enormous win at the bottom. So run these numbers yourself, guys. Go get your data, know your numbers, put it in a spreadsheet, start to look at it, start to see where you've been, and then define where you're going. And the sales training doesn't matter if it's not applying to specific numbers that are going to improve your overall output and your overall contribution to your company and your commission dollars.
It's so true. So David, no, you said it. I'm just going to say it again. Guys, notice that the difference from 441,000 to over 1 million right there, notice that the number of leads did not change. And the number of meetings, right, out of those 100 leads, the only thing that changed was 10. So the question I'm going to challenge for this individual is, how can we talk to 10 more people with the number of leads that we have? Can we send an email the day before and confirm that they're going to be there? Can we text message them and confirm the day of that it still works? I mean, I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head, but that's what we're doing, guys. This is not crazy. It's not hard to be able to increase your sales unless you're saying, okay, I don't need 5 sales. If I want to go to 1 million, I need to have 15 sales. That's hard, especially using the same numbers, right? I won't say it's hard. It's almost impossible to be able to say 441 to $1 million. That's difficult. But when we talk about these little changes within the funnel, right? Knowing your numbers, right? How many calls are you going to make? Well, you're going to make 60. All right, let's make 10% more. What do we need to do to make 66 calls? And just that little change, right, will have a massive impact as you continue to be able to grow your business. And that's where all of this comes into play, guys. That's where all of this stuff that we're talking about, the training that you're getting on the 4D sales process, that's when it all clicks. That's when it all works.
All right. Go back to what Chad said.
Cool. So
it's all about, yeah, go ahead. Take us home.
Yeah. So I know we're jumping to a little bit toward the end of our time. So I'll say the biggest thing that I'm going to tell you guys is discover and disqualify. If you want a higher close ratio, the one thing I'm going to tell you is get all of the crap, the sludge, the bad stuff out of the pipeline. Because if you have poor leads that you're quoting just because you want them to show up as a dollar amount and quoted so you can be the number one quoter on Monday morning, the sales side, you're doing nothing but hurting yourself. Much like I spoke about inside here, that you're making phone calls simply to make phone calls and hope that someone's going to say yes to you. It doesn't work like that, right? If their problem's not big enough to actually act, they're not going to spend money specifically with you to be able to do it. They're not going to spend money with you just because they like you and they want to spend money with you. They have to have a problem or a goal that they're trying to achieve. And that is how business is typically conducted. So if you guys know your walkaway point, this is one of the biggest things that comes inside mindset is know your walkaway point. Don't be afraid to walk away. If it doesn't fit, it's okay. It allows you guys to be able to put your time, effort, and energy into someone else who might actually need your help, who needs your help, right? I joke around with a lot of the customers and clients that I work with, right? That there's somebody out there with a roof right now with roof leak saying, man, I wish I had someone that I could trust. I wish I had someone who can help me with this problem. They're out there, trust me. Now, the marketing tactics that you have to be able to is what's going to put you there, but don't be afraid to disqualify all of those bad opportunities, because the more time that you spend with those bad opportunities that'll never sell will keep you that much further away from finding the individual that does need your help, that does need your solution, and that will pay for it. Okay. So jumping through this, guys, I know we've talked about it before, but there is an entire workspace that's available to you guys. So anybody who joins No Reps Left Behind, I think it said it into the beginning, I think we went over it, but all we ask is for you guys to be able to share what we do, share the information, take a clip of one of my clips that I post and share it and tag me in it, guys. That's all, the only thing I ask for you. And by doing that, we're going to give you guys access to ultimately this 45 app that allows you to be able to ask all of the questions, do it inside a way that allows you to be able to have insane consistency when asking the question. And then it lets you start seeing a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. We talk about 1 through 10. What's the priority level of it, right? You can see it right here. What's the ability level? Are they committed to doing it, right? Are the key decision makers present? When you talk about looking at your book of business in a different way, right now, book of businesses in our industry typically consist of date, status, maybe projected close and confidence percentage if you've manually put that in there, but there's not enough information to truly know how important is this job. There's no priority markers or anything on it. And that's ultimately what this allows us to do, is have that insane consistency. So every time we go into a meeting, we're asking the same questions, but it also allows you to be able to understand when I say, hey, what hot jobs are going to close this week? You can literally sort by that based upon the questions that you asked. So if you guys want access to it, you guys want to try this out, you guys want to use the app inside the field and deliver it to a customer, much like we've done on some of the earlier ones where I've actually presented it to you guys, this is all available. The only thing you have to do is take David or I's one of our posts, share it, tag us in it, and I'll get you access to it. Absolutely free. This is for you guys to be able to help raise your floor, understand what additional technologies out there, so you don't got to be a commodity, right? You don't have to deliver the PDF or the paper format or the paper, that's ultimately going to get lost on the desk.
Yep. All right, guys, we're at time.
Good. There we go. All right. So I've kind of already said it, but I'll say it again, guys. What I want from you guys is to be able to share this. Take a piece. What I want you guys to do is take a piece. I want you to share this, put it on Facebook, in the upper left-hand side, it's the Facebook group. Go ahead and join if you haven't done that yet. That's ultimately my place where I brain dump. The only thing I ask is that you guys give as much as you take. So if there's things that you want to know, things that you want to put inside there, all of those kind of funnel into the same place, and gives you guys kind of a place to where you're not going to be spammed with, I'm looking for subcontractors, but you get real value out of it, right? Real salesmen that are throughout the U.S. that can take pieces of it and grow with it. So I appreciate you guys joining. We are at Teams. Ooh, the 3 numbers. Yeah, we can go through that real quick. All right, no problem. So let's go through it real quick. So number 1 was knowing your numbers. And David, I'm going to look at the question real quick. So we had a question that came through that said, can you quickly recap 3 numbers that matter again? All right, so 3 numbers. One is lead conversion ratio, which is how many leads that you had. And let's be super clear about this, guys. An unqualified prospect is technically a lead. If someone calls your office and says, hey, I have a roof issue, can you guys come out and take a look at it? That's a lead. A lead does not turn into an opportunity until it has been qualified, right? Qualified that they have a problem, it aligns to your primary business, and you guys are starting to go through that whole discovery process. So number 1 is lead to conversion. So how many leads do you guys have to how many completed meetings, which means that lead went through those meetings. The second one is meeting conversion ratio. So the same thing we talked about, having those meetings. Now I'm talking about how many meetings do you run to how many proposals you delivered. Now, there's a lot of things that can change in here. You get out there and it's a wall issue, or it's a foundation issue, something like that, to where you don't deliver a proposal. That's the variable I'm looking for, guys. They don't show up to the meeting, whatever the variables are. That's what we're trying to find, because that's how we're going to kind of understand how well you guys do in converting these things. So number 2 is meeting conversion ratio. And then number 3 is the one that everybody tracks, which is quote conversion ratio, which is how many proposals did you deliver to how many proposals that you sold, right? So they signed on the dotted line. Now, the one thing that I'll tell you, especially on your close conversion ratio, is there's 2 things you need to look at. Number 1 is quantity, and number 2 is dollar amount. So when I say quantity, if you quote 5 jobs that equal $1 million, a lot of times I'm going by quantity, because one job, even though one job's 1,000 and one job is 5,000, it doesn't make one better than the other. So when you talk about having that percentage, I always go by quantity, not dollar amount, because again, $1 million job can greatly skew a close ratio based upon where that's going. So I'm going to make the recommendation that you guys look more at the quantity than the actual monetary side. But the third one is probably the most commonly tracked one, which is proposal delivered divided by proposal sold.
And
so awesome for the
I would say that that is the least important number.
Agreed.
When we train, in the fractional work, when we're driving people, we focus on this last. It's an important number. It is the least important number of the 3. We focus on how many meetings are turning into quotes, how many leads are turning into meetings. Those are by far the most important numbers, because from there, if that's being hit, guys, I promise you, It is just, it's math, it's physics. As long as we know what your historical numbers are, we know that if you get the right number of quotes out, they will turn into sales.
Yep.
It'll happen.
Even if you keep, guys, and even if you keep the same quote or close ratio, if you have a 20% close ratio, I don't care if it's that low. If you increase the amount of people that you're talking to, if you increase the amount of people that you're delivering proposals to, still at a 20% conversion ratio, which means you don't close, you don't change that, you will naturally sell more projects, right? Then how we focus, okay, how do we get that 20% to 25, 25 to 30, and then so on. That is the magic trick that allows you guys to be able to truly take it from where you are right now to ultimately where you want to be. It's not that crazy. David said it, best when he kind of explains it, guys, but it's truly focusing on small changes. Do not think that you have to flip your world upside down, because you really don't. Cool. All right, guys. You guys know, if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that you guys want throughout the week, I'm here. You guys can hit me on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you need to be able to get in touch with me. But I appreciate you guys joining. You guys are the true warriors that are showing up to be able to knock this out. And thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week. And again, thanks again for joining.
See you guys.